Joe, how are you? Welcome to the Rut.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, good mate. How are you?
I'm fine. Good to see you in full stash.
Finally, full stash. Yeah,
Full
I'm in a
stash.
hotel day before an away game. So yeah,
Very nice. Very nice. I asked this to everybody who comes on actually. All give very different answers, right? Why did you want to come on the podcast?
Because I got told to. Is that right?
That would be or I begged you to. Would be the good answer. Yeah.
No. Obviously, it's a subject that's pretty close to my heart. Anyone that's interested in me will know. And yeah, it's just the whole sort of subject is about raising awareness and promoting people to talk about it. It's one of my main things. Just promote people to talk about how they're feeling.
Very good, mate. Well, we'll get onto that in a sec. Paint a picture of Joe Bryan growing up, a proud Bristolian,
yes,
and I suppose a slightly different path to a lot of other footballers in that privately educated and then moved into football. So paint me a picture of what it was like to be Joe Bryan growing up in Bristol.
So long story short.
Well, we've got a long time, so maybe not too.
No, just
too
the
short.
general background that most people aren't really interested in. Privately educated, primary school, secondary school. Yeah, was a rugby school, all boys rugby school, secondary school. Left that at GCSEs, so did my GCSEs, did well, got sort of A's, A stars, B's, that kind of level, and then went into football full time. Did the I think back in those days it was called the YTS, Youth Trainee Scholarship or something.
Right.
For 2 years, studied I can't even remember now. It was so long ago. Something like an NVQ or a BTEC in sport or something alongside football, and then moved into football full time.
And this was when you were 17, 18, right? And you
left at 16.
Yeah.
Left school at 16. And then you go into full-time football.
When did it become clear to you? When did it become clear to you that football was going to become a thing?
Probably like 13, 14.
Right, okay.
I never really thought about it before then. I just kind of went with the flow, was good at football, played it. It was always in the back of my head. I was always kind of, was like, yeah, I want to be a footballer. But you never really, at that age, you just kind of play football because you enjoy it, and you never really think, oh, this could be a thing, until they were like, yeah, we're gonna. I can't remember the exact like numbers and stuff, but they said, yeah, 4-year contract, gives you time to develop, to mature, etc. And yeah, I kind of just knuckled down and focused, and it's got me so far.
And you went into Bristol City Academy, right?
So I joined Bristol City Academy at 9 years old.
It's amazing.
Until I was 24. So how's your maths? Is that 15 years?
Yeah.
15 years, yeah. At one club, and then moved to Fulham in the summer of 2018.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, did you ever experience like mental health growing up? Mental health problems or issues, or kind of being like, okay, well, this is slightly weird. I had a question actually from somebody who was like, said, did he experience? Had he got any experiences of rejection within football, like fear of not making it? I mean, did that ever creep in? Yeah.
Am I allowed to swear on the podcast?
Oh, yeah, mate. Don't worry.
Fucking right. That's all football is rejection. A lot of it is, you're not good enough. Blah blah blah. All this.
Did that take any effect on you when you were young?
Not really. No, I don't think so.
Really?
Nah, you just kind of, you get used to it. You get kind of like numb to it in football. You can't deal with it as a football player. Any player that's playing in the Football League or the Premier League or any decent standard of football, you can guarantee that they deal with rejection all right, because there's no way you'd get to any decent level without dealing with it well. But going back to the original question, when I was younger, I was a moody kid. I was a moody kid. Like, I was.
Anything changed?
Actually, no. You know what? Like, I'm in a good place at the moment. I feel very sort of just like peaceful and there's there's been kind of an accelerated. I was saying to one of my good close friends, there's been like an accelerated period of like self growth in the last few months, which has been lovely. And I'm at a place now where I'm just kind of comfortable with who I am. And obviously with what happened in the playoff final, I just think it gave me that little bit of extra confidence that I was maybe lacking. And I'm just in a good place. But going back to the original question, I was a bit of a moody kid, probably had mood swings, but used to get angry with my brothers and sister. But I don't think it was anything out of the ordinary. You'd have to ask my parents, but I don't think there was much that I ever went, oh, this isn't right.
Interesting.
I never did anything. I was never one of those kids that like hurts animals or all that weird stuff. If that's what you're asking.
Hurts animals. Excellent. Right. Well, that's good to know. Bristol City, you get signed. Yep. League One, right?
Were they legal? I can't remember what legal. When are we talking? When I was 8?
No. So, okay, we're talking about like your first professional contract, whereby actually it's not just a professional contract in the academy. It's like, okay, well, I'm borderline on the first team / breaking through.
So 16, they gave me the scholarship. Like I said, a year later, when I was 17, I just passed my driving test. Actually, excitingly, I signed a 3-year deal, 3 or 4 year. And they said, look, I was still pretty small at that time. I didn't grow until I was sort of 17, 18. And I now signed that deal. And they said, look, this is your 3 years. You've got time to develop. We're putting our faith in you, blah, 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 blah. It gave me a decent wage at that time. And then I broke my leg a week later. Or a week before, I can't remember, but my leg snapped in half at some point.
Really?
And I just used that 5 months to get massive in the gym.
Really?
No, I didn't get massive, but like it was one of those where the fitness coach at the time was just like, right, this is a perfect opportunity for you to fill out and just,
Was there any like that leg break? I mean, was there any worry that was gonna hurt your career moving forward, or are you just confident that you've got this 3-year contract and you know what, I'll be fine, keep working?
That was my mindset. Was that it didn't really faze me, to be honest. I think probably my parents were shitting themselves. I don't know if Bristol City were. I don't think the financial investment wage point of view would have worried them if I hadn't have kind of got back to my best. But it took me 6 months. I think 6 months to get fully back to playing, or 5.5 months was when I played my first game. But when you play your first game after an injury like that, it doesn't. It takes a while for you to get back to it.
Yeah, 100%. Bristol City. How many times did you play for them? I should actually have know that in my research on you, and maybe you should know as well.
I don't know. Probably 200 and something.
It's quite a long time. Quite a few appearances.
I made a few appearances from
Yeah. What was it? What was the team like there?
It changed a massive amount while I was there, but my resounding memory will be the team that we got promoted out of League One with Steve Cottrell. That was team spirit, everything. That team had like everything for the level. It was brilliant. It was so fun to be a part of. A team that was just like everyone was like mates and just go out after the game, and that's why we all got promoted with 99 points. You just felt like it was your family away from home. That's what it felt like.
I want to come on to your kind of opinions on winning cultures, because actually you've been in a few sides now which have either been relegated or promoted. But let's move to 2018. You've moved to Fulham, right? You had a season in the Premier League.
So the season before, I had 2 years left on my contract with Bristol City, and I said to myself, look, I need to make something happen here. I want to play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I just went for it that year, and it's a bit like I tried my hardest every game, but that year I just kind of got the bit between my teeth and just had a right go and said, look, I'm going to try and make something happen. Unfortunately, it did. was disappointing because we were probably I think we were third or fourth or second at Christmas that year, and then we tailed off towards the end and dropped out of the playoffs, which was disappointing because to play in the Premier League for my boyhood club would have been one of the best experiences ever. But yeah, that summer I got a move. I was all ready to go to Villa. That was all.
Yeah, I was going to say it was deadline day, right? And you were about.
It was a day before deadline day. It was a day before deadline day. It was all set. I'd said my goodbyes at training ground in Bristol, and yeah, I was up on the motorway to Aston Villa, and then last minute Fulham came in, and when you've got a dream to play in the Premier League and you get told you could do it 2 days later, there's no turning that down. Like, you can get injured, you can do whatever. That season I might have signed for Villa, got injured and never got a chance to play in the Premier League. So.
That was 2017, right? That you signed for Fulham.
That was 2018. That was the summer of 2018, was it?
No, it was before that because you had a season in. I think you had a season.
No.
So this was your.
Yeah, this was summer of 2018, August 2018. I signed for Fulham.
Okay. Yeah.
And then obviously, I'd lived in Bristol for 24 years. Lived close to family, 10 minutes away from my parents. Bought a house 10 minutes away from them. My brothers lived another 10 minutes on. And then, moved to the big city and started playing for Fulham.
What was there did you find any like issues there with the move? Because obviously
I wasn't worried at all.
No,
at the time, I didn't think I would be homesick. I didn't think I'd encounter any issues. You suddenly, bang, you got the bright lights of London, Premier League, big money, that kind of thing. But it soon becomes apparent that all those things don't matter.
Right, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk to me about this, because when we spoke a few months ago, and it's taken us a while to actually record this, your story around depression and anxiety is fascinating, but also one that it hasn't really been spoken about, right? So talk to me about what happened.
So I hesitate to kind of talk too much about it because I know kind of mental health issues are subjective and they're each individual's battles. So for me, mine aren't too debilitating, and I've never got to the point where like I've considered suicide or those kinds of things. So for me, I always kind of try and keep some kind of equilibrium about it because I know there are people that suffer a lot worse than me. But I think if you can bring, if you can kind of take the taboo away from talking about it, like as a male, it's fine to just go to your best mate and say, look, I've had a shit day. I feel crap at the moment. But we don't do that. For some reason, we just don't do it.
No.
I do it now and I'm so much better for it. Yeah.
But you're
lost where I was.
You say you're hesitant to talk about it because you weren't suicidal or having those thoughts, but actually the point here being is that it doesn't matter whether you're having suicidal thoughts. The fact is you suffered, and it was debilitating. It was debilitating for a period of time. Let's be honest. Like for quite a few months, you were like, "Fuck, okay, where am I going here?" But it is quite a dangerous mentality to have. Actually, I think I probably phrased that wrong. I'm lucky in that there were people around me at the time. Sorry, I need to put this on Do Not Disturb. Am I back? Yeah. Yeah, you are.
I was lucky. I should rephrase that. I was lucky at the time that I had good people around me. Luckily or unluckily, that said to me, look, Joe, I think it was a physio, one of the female physios at Fulham, just like, Joe, you just something not quite right. Like, are you feeling all right, etc. Go and see the club doc and just speak to him. And I kind of knew in my head, I was like, I'm waking up with I kind of had like a weight over my brow. I had like a headache. Just like, you know, when you just don't feel right, you're just not sure about, like, you can't really be bothered to get up. You can't.
But what's the
Can't
story behind
motivate
it?
you to
Like
do it. I don't know.
you had the
I was
hamstring injury, right?
Yeah. So obviously I joined Fulham. Everything was brilliant. Boyhood dream, playing the Premier League. Got injured on my first game, so twisted my ankle. So that was a bit of a kick in the dick. And then it just slowly, like, I was in a long distance relationship. My girlfriend at the time didn't move up with me because we'd only been together for sort of 6 to 8 months. We started losing, playing poorly, struggled to adapt to the level. I'd say struggled to adapt to the level. I was shit. Then I think in October I tore my hamstring like bad. I think I tore something like 75% of the muscle. I can't remember.
It's painful. That.
And one of the other things was I moved into this apartment that everything kept fucking breaking.
Yeah.
Everything kept breaking, like aircon, and the aircon wouldn't turn off. So I'd be going to sleep with this like rattling sound above me, and just all these tiny little things got on top of me. And it just made me down, to be honest, and just kind of sunk me into this like constant grey mood.
And there was a like lack. You were talking when we spoke the other month. You were like the lack of sleep from this aircon, and it sounds so trivial, but it's not. Like when we're younger, we're like, I don't need sleep. I really.
This is one
sleep.
thing I tell people: sleep is so important.
So important.
I've got a little ring. It's called an Aura ring, OURA ring. Now, that Fulham gave me. They've given a few of the lads them, and it tracks your sleep. There's an app on your phone. It tells you your REM, your deep sleep, your time that it took you to get to sleep. Everything. Best thing that's ever happened to me. You notice so much about sleep. Things like if you have a couple of gin and tonics, bosh, sleep's disrupted massively. Alcohol, things like that, disrupt it.
What were you feeling?
I'd say to anyone that's slightly struggling, just have a look at your sleep schedule and see if you can sort that out, because sleep's so important.
What were you feeling at the worst times of it? Because you weren't suicidal, of course, but there was a prolonged period where getting out of bed was tough.
There was a few months where it was like that. Like I said earlier, I was lucky that I had people around me to kind of make me realize what was going on before it got too bad, and make me realize that talking to people is important, and like, it's completely normal to feel like it. A lot of people feel like it, and a lot of people don't talk about it. But it was just just lacking motivation. It was just grumpy. Like I said, I had a headache for the best part of sort of a month, 6 weeks, just constant. Like, felt like I was straining my eyes all the time. Just I do things like I'd go and sit like in the bathroom at Fulham after breakfast and just sit there for an hour just before training, scrolling through my phone, because I didn't really want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to didn't really want to interact with people.
Isolating away, right?
Yeah.
And then I think you actually approached the physio. You talked about the physio earlier. You were like, I really don't feel right here.
So no, she approached me. She approached me and just said there's something going on. Have a word with the doc. And then, quick as you like, the doc, I spoke to the doc, kind of filled in this questionnaire about how I was feeling.
What did he say?
What did I say? What did he say?
What did he say?
He was just like, we've got a guy called Vin that you can talk to within the club, and started talking to him, had a few sessions with him and just talked things out. And then, it was slowly started to get better. I ended up splitting up with my girlfriend at the time.
Did that have in the time it had a negative impact?
And I hesitate to kind of comment too much on it, because obviously, like, I care about her, and she'll hold a special place in my heart. But like, it just wasn't working, and so I needed to just be on my own and deal with the move and get settled into London. And I've moved on from that now, and I'm looking and feeling a lot better about everything, you know.
Mate, you're looking great. You're looking great.
It's just about talking and developing and trying to be better,
Mate, good man.
Do
you mind going through what you worked on with a psychologist?
To be honest, there was nothing really that, other than sitting and chatting about how I was feeling and kind of like avenues to explore, like trying to find a bit. I think one of the main things for me that I struggled with was I'd worked towards a goal of playing in the Premier League for so long.
Right.
And then when you suddenly achieve that goal, you're kind of left with like, what's next? Like, how do I remotivate myself? What do I do?
That's fascinating.
It leaves kind of like an emptiness. And yeah, I honestly think that's probably the main thing that it was for me. That's kind of having that goal to work towards in your whole life, kind of pushing towards one thing, and then suddenly you achieve it. And it's like, great. It's a little bit empty. What's next? Yeah.
What would have been next?
I don't know. And that was the problem. I didn't think what was next.
Right. Interesting.
Whereas now I've set myself goals that will probably remain private, but no, I've got goals and things to work towards, and not just football related, other things, long-term life goals, business goals, etc., things like that to keep me motivated and occupied.
Mate, very nice. Let's get on to the summer of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And 2019, sorry. And we talked a bit about anxiety.
So 2019, so probably January, February was when I started to feel better in general about the kind of just feeling glum and dull and kind of in that kind of like grey mood. So I started to feel better. And then the summer in the summer, I had some time off. And at that time, I actually got quite ill. I had this cold I just couldn't shake. And I had sinusitis. And I'm assuming it's all linked to feeling just generally crap. And yeah, I just like I said, like I explained to you before, I was sat in the barbers and just like everyone was talking in Spanish, and I was just like, like what's going on? Like I feel a little bit. Everyone's talking about me, everyone's laughing at me, and most of your listeners will, if they're listening, like they'll probably have experienced the same at some point.
We had a panic attack, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it was a full-blown panic attack, but I was.
Oh, it depends what you mean by full-blown. I mean, you had a panic attack, and that's the problem.
I sat there and was just like, oh my God, I need to get out of it. I need to get out of it.
You were sweating. Right.
I always sweat. To be fair, I always sweat. I'm a sweaty boy.
Yeah, me too.
No, but like I just started to like panic a little bit and was like, right, I need to calm down. Luckily, I managed to calm myself down and get my haircut finished, because that would have been a shambles had I walked out of there with half a fade. But no, and then afterwards, I left the barbers and I rang Vin again. I was just like, mate, what on earth has just happened to me? Because obviously I've never experienced anything like that.
No.
And he was like, oh, it sounds like an anxiety attack. Like, talk to me, like what's happened. And then it just kind of transpired that a few things that I've been feeling the previous season, like sitting at dinner with the team and just being like, I feel like everyone's talking about me, just wanting to go to bed, things like that.
How did that feel though? How did that feel? I'm quite interested by that, because that's something that on the podcast we get a lot of people like talking about that. The fear of being judged, and especially in a professional sport environment, like you're it's a results-based environment.
You're
right?
judged constantly. So you're judged constantly. So when you're put into situations where you should be comfortable and sort of without fear of judgment, when things like that start to creep in, it makes you feel very unbalanced and like, oh God, hang on, I should be comfortable in this environment. Why aren't I comfortable? Why do I feel like everyone's judging me, etc. So yeah, it's a very weird feeling for me. It feels like a kind of heat. Like I get hot, I feel sick. Not to the point like I feel sick, but I'm never going to throw up.
No, it's feeling in your stomach.
It's just very uncomfortable. You get kind of like clammy hands and a bit shaky, and it's just it's a strange one. It's one that like I've now learned to kind of control it and just kind of relax and just breathe and just be like, actually, the thing that people don't realize is 90% of the time when you're thinking about yourself, so is everyone else. Everyone else is thinking about themselves. If you're thinking about yourself naturally, everyone else is probably thinking about themselves. So the likelihood that they're thinking about you and that tiny little bit of water or food that you've accidentally spilled on yourself
What
It's very
was
slim.
your worries literally? I'm not going to say that trivial, but in the grand scheme of things, to a normal person.
For me, that wasn't it. But for some people,
Right.
I know that is.
Yeah, sure.
I just like, it was more of just a feeling of like I was uncomfortable. And obviously, when you're in an environment where there's a lot of foreign languages being spoken. You've got French, Spanish, German, Dutch. If you're sort of semi-anxious about anything, you'll be like, "Hang on, they're talking about me. Right, I'm going to bed."
Really?
Yeah, and it's that kind of fight or flight mechanic, and yeah.
How long was this going on for?
Not, to be honest, not that long. It happened a couple of times. We've lost it. Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't that long. It happened a few times. And like I said, I've been really lucky with people that have been around me and been able to point that out without me having to struggle a huge amount with it.
Yeah.
And also I take a keen interest in kind of human psychology and kind of working out why we feel what we do and sort of that. So I read a lot of books, and it's just interesting to me to kind of work through what you're feeling. And yeah.
The story we discussed with a teammate of yours, Callum.
Yeah.
I mean, that was hilarious, but purely because actually that, from my perspective, that was like your first, well, I think it was your first moment where you kind of made a joke out of it. And this was when you were at the height of...
So he was the first person I kind of said to, like, mate, honestly.
Do you mind saying what it is? Because it is
no.
absolutely hilarious.
I can't remember exactly what I said to you, but I remember saying to him, because we used to drive to training together every morning. Every single morning, we'd stop and get coffee and drive in, and like, I don't think I've ever told him really, but like things like that routine of going in together, getting a coffee was so important for me. It was just nice. Really? Like it actually turned into things like something I was looking forward to. Little things like that. Even now, when every morning I'll pull up at the coffee shop, get a coffee, and I just enjoy my drive to training with my coffee. It's just like a routine, and it's just, yeah, it's lovely. But so with Cal, he was probably the first person that I said to, like, I came clean to. I didn't have anything to admit to, but I was like, mate, honestly, some days
you just opened up to, right?
I just said some days I go home and I sit and just stare at the wall, and I'm just like, this is shit. Like, why do I feel so down? And I've grown up in, obviously my dad's a surgeon, so we've got quite a dark humour. Obviously dad's had to have quite a I say an open relationship with death, but like, because being a surgeon, it's a life and death situation. Like, he's quite kind of easy going about like humour surrounding things like that. So I was just there laughing about it. I was like, mate, some days I just go home and I've like sit in a room and like don't do anything, and it's sad, and like, what the fuck's going on? And he just started laughing at me. He said, you're such a flipping weirdo. Like, what? Like, but for me, having someone to sit and laugh about it with, and actually kind of, he's like, Joe, like, your life's not that bad. Come on. Like, for someone to sit there with me and say that, like, helped me massively. And I'm not saying for everyone that laughing at the fact that you're struggling and kind of having a mate like take the piss out of you for it is good. But for me, it worked a treat.
It is. I sometimes, when I'm in that place and I'm talking to my mates and they do take the piss out of me for it, like
you just get trapped in your own head sometimes.
I know. Some of my friends talk about the rut, and it's quite like, the podcast gets deep into a lot of issues, and we've had some people who've come on with some quite serious problems, like attempted suicide, etc. And they just take the piss out of me, as if like to say, "Oh yeah, another crying session on the rut."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah. Honestly, do you know what?
I'm a huge advocate of like seeing the humor in the situations, just because, like, yeah, like.
I think your psychologist walked into the room as you were on the physio table, right? Or somebody said, "Oh, Vin's here to see you," and he took the piss out of you, right?
this is what he just used to do things like that. I can't remember the exact what he said. But he'd be like, "Oh, you're staying late, are you? Yeah, you're gonna have another flipping session talking about your feelings, you weirdo." Stuff like that. He's like, "Yeah. You go and moan about all the money you earn a week and the lovely flat that you live in and how rubbish your life is, Joe. Everyone else will get on with their life." That's what he used to say things like that to me. Seeing the humour in it for me is
it puts things
a
into
big part.
perspective, right? Yeah,
especially. I think the thing that I would quite like to get across, kind of coming on here, is that for a lot of people, you'll be chasing, like, if you're chasing the money, the kind of the career, like it won't bring, like, it doesn't bring that like deep happiness. Like, you need to kind of sort yourself out. If you're constantly chasing numbers, like, you won't ever get any fulfillment, and you'll always feel slightly empty. And I think that's where, like, me chasing that, I want to play in the Premier League, and all of a sudden I did it, and admittedly, I didn't do very well, but for me, that emptiness that was left was like, I didn't know how to deal with it. It's just, that's the kind of thing I want to get across, is that just don't chase numbers and don't chase like materials and things like that.
Playing for Fulham, Premier League player, I mean, football is very tribal. We know that, and everybody has an opinion about everybody. How difficult was it for you to be vulnerable to people?
Hard to start with. It's just become natural now. It's become completely natural. Very hard to start with, even saying things to my parents. But again, really? Like I said, like, my mum's brilliant about it. I think Dad and my brothers struggled a little bit at the beginning to kind of like fathom, like, how can you be feeling down when you're playing in the Premier League, you're earning all this money, you're like doing something millions and millions of people want to do. How does that work? But through time, it's just become easier, and just through being like, right, I need to be vulnerable sometimes. I need to talk to people about things sometimes. It's become natural.
I want to talk about mental health in football, because I find it interesting. On the outside, generally speaking, as a fan or as supporters, you really see how the perception is that a footballer's life is just all rosy. I mean, you basically turn up to a training ground, you get told where to piss, where to shit, what to eat, and then you go home, you do it all again, and you kick a ball around with your left foot or right foot, right? And granted, there's massive amounts of money in football now, but it's not all that rosy, as you've said. So, like, how rife is mental health issues in football? Obviously, not naming names, but you're in the inside looking out. Like, how big of an issue is it?
I don't really know, if I'm honest, because for me, until, like, I always hid it. I'd hide it at the training ground. I'd put a smile on. Like I said,
why?
I'd go and, I don't know, like, because at the time I didn't know what it was, so it was uncomfortable. And B, you're still in a situation where, like, I was sat there going, if I'm vulnerable and I look weak and all this, and I don't know what's going on with me, and like, will I play? Like, will I carry on playing, or will people like judge me? That kind of thing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of it in football, especially now with all the media attention. You've got social media, you've got Sky Sports News rolling every single day of the week, picking up stories about an 18-year-old making kind of a mistake that 95 million other 18-year-olds in the country have done. And yeah, it's just, I think it is rife, but most people are hiding it, and it's our job, well, my job and your job, to hopefully open people's eyes and make it all right to say, I feel like shit. Like, some days I feel like crap. Some days I don't want to come to training. I want to lie in my bed and watch Friends. I'll still get up and go to training, but it's the same with any job. Like, some days you'll probably wake up and go, I can't be asked to do this podcast today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, it's
Oh
just
yeah.
life. It's just life. We all hate our job. No, I'm joking,
Mm,
but it's it always comes back to the same thing. It's just all right to be. It's all right to
mm,
be grumpy some days. Some days it's all right to be energetic and love life. Some days it's all right to be like, not today. I had a
mm,
training session. Actually, I had a training session 2 days ago. And everything was annoying me. And like when I was 22 or 21, like I'd have probably let it get to me and boot someone, like do a nasty tackle on someone to vent my frustration. Whereas now I'm 26, I'm like, today's one of those days where I don't feel great. It's too hot, so I'm angry because it's hot. And I'm doing a shooting drill, and every single shot's gone over the bar. So I'm just going to go home and try again tomorrow,
mm.
and not think too deeply about it.
There's an amazing book actually called Fringes, which is written by a guy called Ben Mercer, who used to be a professional rugby
A
player.
rugby player, yeah.
Yeah. And
He played
it's
for
like
Bath, didn't he?
he did. No, his brother Guy played for Bath.
Guy, so yeah,
Yeah.
my brother used to play his brother when he was school age.
Right. Okay.
It was a
Yeah.
big rivalry, apparently.
Yeah. That's how.
I never took an
Like
interest in it.
Ben's book on because he went to France, but he was playing in
Mm-hmm.
like the lower divisions in France, and his book on it's called Life on the Edge of Professional Rugby.
Mm-hmm.
Talks about what life was like. Obviously, being on the fringes of
Yeah.
practically like the top league. Now, you've had experience coming from Bristol,
Mm-hmm.
and you went on loan to Plymouth Argyle, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll remind me of the other team,
Bath City.
Bath City, right?
28-day loan. What a
Yeah,
time that was.
what a time. Matt, the government the other day, well, not
Hang
the other
on.
day.
Where have we gone with this?
So
Tangent.
this is all coming into the same question, which is
You're about to start
fringes.
yelling about Matt Hancock at me.
Yeah, well, Matt Hancock said, "Why don't footballers give up a proportion of their salary?" Um, a while ago, and from a
Okay.
player's perspective, and from maybe players in the lower leagues, and hopefully you can represent them in this answer or do a relatively good job of it. But what's it actually like trying to make it? Because it's not all bells and whistles and hundreds of thousands of pounds a week down in the lower leagues, and I can imagine mental health in the lower leagues is really difficult.
I'd say as I've gone further up, it's got more tough.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Purely from the point of view of that, I think a lot of the things that I struggle to deal with are the kind of just a constant attention. Like I'm fine with it now. Like it doesn't bother me. You can say what you like about me on Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. But as kind of like an early 20s, like maybe 24, coming into the Premier League, it was such a kind of kick in the ass. Like, wow, like the attention surrounding it, any move that you make gets picked up. It's like talking purely on the pitch now. I'm saying any move that you make gets picked up and pulled to pieces on TV. And I just want to play some football and enjoy it. Like I'm quite good at it. I get paid for it, and yeah, that's my mentality on it. I think in lower down you go, there's much less attention. You can obviously there's more real life worries then with sort of like, am I making enough to live on? I think down in kind of like conference level and stuff, and that brings with it its own worries. But my experience is probably skewed in the fact that I've spent most of my career now in the top half of the Championship or the Premier League. So kind of my attention is towards the kind of social media aspect and the constant kind of feeling like you're being surveyed all the time, and some fat idiot at home on his sofa.
Let's talk about social media.
Telling me I can't play football, like that used to bother me. Now it's just kind of funny.
Most people I talk about, most people is nobody. I've asked a few people about like questions to ask you who are, like I said, bigger football fans than I. Social media in football is a fucking brutal world.
I like it.
I like it
because I'm happy. Like you can abuse me, and if it's delivered in a humorous way, I'll laugh and find it funny.
Really?
If it's just like, Joe, I hope you break your legs and die in a fire, it's not funny. Like, it's not funny. It's not intelligent. Like, it's just like, what are you doing? But if someone says something like fairly humorous, tongue-in-cheek, kind of about a game that I might have played rubbish in, if I played rubbish, I'll probably agree with it. If it's funny, I'll probably laugh at it. But it's the kind of mindless abuse of someone because they're someone. I just don't get it.
How do you safeguard your yourself away from the media and social media?
I don't really. I don't have any
Really?
notifications on Twitter. So if like someone @s me on Twitter, the only ones I see are people I follow.
Right. Okay.
My Instagram's a free for all. So for anyone that wants to abuse me, just slap a comment on one of my photos because if it's on Twitter, I won't see it. But like
Instagram's a free for all.
The thing that gets me is that because obviously I'm in a kind of what's the word? I'm in a privileged position. Like I'm doing a job. I'm doing a job that everyone wants to do. I'm kind of hopefully people look up to me. I don't know if they do, but I try my best. Hopefully they look up to me, and like if someone says something on Instagram, I think it's funny to just comment something back. You can't. You're not allowed. Because then it's like, oh God, like I made a comment the other day in an interview, a clearly tongue-in-cheek comment about how when my dad operated on the manager's dad at the time, I had a few tweets going, oh, that's why you're playing in the team. Like there was a couple of like clearly joking tweets at me about it, and I was bringing it up in humour. You should have seen the furor that ensued after that interview came out. Look at all we've done for you. Like it was your hometown club. I can't believe you talk about all the fans in the club like that. It's just like, oh God, this is everything that's wrong with social media. Is that like one comment can get so viciously blown out of proportion. Like,
does it affect footballers, or are most footballers now? They've had it drilled into them, like you pretty much have, is to just bat it away. But does it affect other players that you know?
Not really. I know most of them now don't like look at their tweets.
Really?
And that's the danger for me. Social media can be such a brilliant place where you can interact with fans and like put across. Like I try and put across my personality I only really use Instagram. Like I put across my personality. You see a little bit of my life. You see what I'm interested in. It's not just football. And this is the danger that you get if you've got that kind of. And the problem is 10. It's 10. That's 4. 10 fans probably out of 10,000 might be the ones that are constantly trolling you. And it's the same in any industry. Films and movies are the same. Films, like anything like that, TV, like you've always going to get people that troll you. And the danger is that you kind of in a world now where the players and the people like this, the stars of said world don't want to kind of interact. And the idea of these things is to have kind of positive interactions and spread creativity, joy, love, that kind of thing. Whereas if you're constantly being abused, it's just like, you know what, I'm going to keep myself to myself, walls up, live my life in quiet.
You've had a few injuries now. The ankle.
Fair enough.
Yeah, very fair. No, I like that. Yeah, no, definitely fair enough. And yeah, sorry, I should have commented on that.
I sense you were bored with that subject.
No, not at all. No, I find social media. I personally have a real love-hate with social media.
Yeah.
I like with the podcast, I'm like not forced, but I feel obliged to obviously promote it on social media and do my very best to promote the stories that come on. And so I'm hoping when this is released, you'll do your best to promote it as well, to take some of the pressure off me. But I find social media, for me, it's less about being trolled because I have 400 followers, not like I don't know how many you have, 10,000 or whatever, and or maybe I'm doing you a disservice there. But for me, it's about this comparison, this constant comparison of a life that might be better than my perceived life. Do you know what I mean? And
it's a highlight reel, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's all
it's
it is.
and it's
It's a highlight reel
savage.
of people's
Yeah,
lives.
yeah, and then
I
you
think
get
that's
into
why it's important to just like, even a little thing like the other day, what did I do? I didn't finish a book. I gave up because it's crap. So I just posted on my story, like, gave up with this book, couldn't finish it. Language is too hard. But I think it's important. Little things like that make if I'm posting like books on Instagram, people will be like, oh my God, this guy reads 58 books a day. How on earth does he do that? I don't. Like, the last book, I started a book a month ago. I've still got 200 pages left to do it. But you'll look on my Instagram and you'll see like 12 books, and 12 books across a year is only 12 books a year. It's not a lot. And people will look at it like, oh God, he reads so much. Why don't I read that much? I need to read this much. And there's this kind of, like you said, comparison, and it's like this whole like toxic productivity kind of thing that is just like a real, like, everyone has to have a side hustle, a multi-million pound company, amazing Instagram, like go on brilliant holidays, go and pop bottles in some wanky nightclub. Like, no, just live your life and do what you want. And if you want to post like a selfie in the bath like Ricky Gervais, crack on. If you want to post a photo of your Lamborghini, crack on. Like, you should just be positive about it. And did you know what? This is why I love TikTok. If you go on TikTok, it's one of the most positive places ever.
Really?
Just everyone just builds each other up. No, it's good. I'm not on it either. I mean, I don't make them because I can't quite get to grips with the.
I'm the same.
I love it. But I can't
during
quite
lockdown,
get
we had a group, my group of friends, and we were doing Zooms, and it was like a competition who did run the best quiz. And one of my mates, Will, and his missus put in this rule that you had to send your best TikTok video. And
that you've made.
Yeah. So Abby and I were like, what is a TikTok? We had to download TikTok for the first time. What the hell do we do? And I was just, fuck it, I'm just going to create a video in a onesie. No problem. But oh my word, it's so long. You talk about this like obsession with productivity. My therapist calls it masturbation. So
masturbation.
So it's,
must do this,
must do this. I should do this.
Yeah.
I've got to do this. It's like putting this internal pressure on yourself, and the language you use is constantly like unconsciously feeding this notion of focus, pressure, and I'm the worst for it.
And that's the thing. Like, I posted a photo on Instagram during lockdown, and it basically just said like, because I found lockdown really weird in I don't know when this is going out, but lockdown number 1, I'm talking now. I don't know what we might
next few weeks. Kick off season 2 with a bang.
So during lockdown number 1, I just noticed that there was this culture came through of like, you're not doing anything at home, so you should be doing yoga every morning. You should be drinking 48 gallons of water, eating only kale. Then doing some Pilates, then you should be meditating for 14